Okay, better now? Yeah. All right. First of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Chapman for his financial information. I think that really kind of shed a lot of light on the subject. Kind of softened the blow.
Please hear you. We cannot hear you.
Turn the volume up somehow.
I want you guys to speak up.
Yeah, but I have to change the language. Maybe it's me. Okay, anyhow, I'd like to thank Mr. Chapman for his presentation on the financial feasibility. I think that's kind of shed a lot of light on the subject and it's opened some minds, and hopefully people are not quite in the panic mode anymore. Now we're looking more at the project and the cost issues. We're obviously concerned about the cost issues, but it is not the primary concern. We can actually concentrate on what it is we really want to do. The staff has also spent a tremendous amount of time responding to the requests and turning things around and adding their input to the project, and a lot of work on the financial side, and fielding and summarizing all the questions and comments from the folks in the audiences. So thank you. And I'd also like to thank Terry and Greg a lot, not just for tonight's presentation, but for the work they've done on the prior two forums. They have quickly responded based on all our requests and the number of comments for changes. They scaled back the project to try to fit it into our needs and our budget, and they've incorporated our requests and greatly contributed also, as Mr. Chapman mentioned, to our current reserve study regarding the facilities. We as a board greatly appreciate your efforts designated to the project, so thank you. Okay. The board discussion, as Mr. C. mentioned or stated, it will fill up the cards when questions come up. They will be answered at the end of the board discussion, and we as a board have with one minor faux pas, which is not responded to by any board members, have no discussions on this project at all. We've gotten the data, we've seen the various revisions, we've seen the site plans. We have not had any discussion as a board on this project. So tonight will be our first chance, and your first chance to hear us on this discussion. Okay. So we'll get our chance now to look at the narrowing down and paring down of the project design concepts and give further direction to Williams and Patton, so we can tighten up the project, have some solid conceptual plans and more financial information by the August 17th forum. So again, please hold your questions until the end. What I'm going to do, or I'd like to do, is start with an informal poll of the board members, where we can discuss what they think, what their thoughts are in general, and I think we do it as a whole project, not a specific at first. Look at the project as a whole. We get back to a little more specifics later. So anyhow, if that's going there, I would find out if anybody would volunteer to go first at the board. Anybody would like to? Diana?
Can I get you to put the schematic up of the floor plan for the Hartman project? Please. Thank you. Okay. Probably as all of you know, I'm Diana Marshall, been on the board for 6 years. I have some razor points. Where's my just as something I've overlooked these, we've never talked about them before. This will be my first presentation to the board or anybody else on how my feelings on this concept of plant design. It was obviously essential that it had a diet, but I think the diet eliminated some things that I felt were very crucial to this building. But the first thing I would like to do is put this on the meeting room. This meeting room is 400 square feet. I don't know how it got in there, or who decided it, or who wanted it. My conception is that this particular meeting room could be eliminated, and people wanting to have meetings could be using the first 2 or 3 tables in the main dining room banquet section. Given the fact that we get rid of that particular 400 square feet, there's 3 things that I think this building has to do. House 100 people at a time, and one of the biggest complaints of non-use of this building is that the bathrooms were next to or had to go through the bar to get to the bathroom. So what I would like to consider to have Terry consider, eliminating that room, moving the bar all the way to the very end, that portion over there, take the bathrooms that are in front and put it between the bar and the restaurant. So no children would ever have to be next to or go through the bar area to use the facilities. Comments on the bathrooms. Right now, it's a 5-holder with 3 sinks. I think that's a little over the top. 4 and 4 would be, and 2 sinks would probably be no doubt sufficient for this facility. And a sidebar. How come the men's side is bigger than the women's side? So, if that was the faces, the bathroom is now where the bar is now where the meeting room is, and then we would move down the entry to the open hole. Give you a hole, yeah, right there. Move it down, right in there. Then we could move the kitchen down. And if we move the kitchen down, we could put another bank of almost 40 chairs and seating facility next to the now existing banquet room, which would go where that hallway is, and it would be all undercover, and we would have seating for 100 within this footprint. That hallway is quite large, and we just scooch all that down a little, revamp that, and only eliminating this 400 square foot meeting room.
Diana, I don't mean to interrupt, but I'd like to keep this on a more general basis. We're not going to redesign this building tonight. We're trying to get an overall concept as a board where we're going. We don't have to redesign the building.
Okay,
I appreciate your
I wanted to
input.
give
Later.
the input for them to consider getting the 3 things we would like. The bathroom out of the bar and a bigger banquet.
Anybody else?
Well, thank you for coming. Oh, hello. I'm sorry. Thanks everybody for coming tonight. It's pretty hot outside, and we had to get you away from Jeopardy, and let's make a deal of it. I appreciate it for you coming here, showing your interest. My concept of the whole thing is that we have a project. We don't have a community center or Hartman project. This is all one project. And I think if you look at both the buildings as they are now, they're almost 50 years old. Could you imagine you live in your house for 50 years and don't do nothing? Could you imagine that? Your wife, she would throw you out because you wanted a new kitchen every 5 years. So my concept of the whole thing is we need to go forward. And how do we go forward is a matter of dollars. I agree with that. So when Craig and Terry showed up the first time and showed us the floor plan, that they were excited about it, how we want to do the Hartman project, and also what we can do here. So when I first saw it, it was like a dream. For both sides, not just the Hartman project. It was a dream for both sides because we could work together. If we decide to do the Hartman project so we can have banquets down there, eliminate the banquets up here, that would be awesome. I also realized that we have to go on a diet. And I think this is hard, very hard. But I also understand that because Mr. Chapman tonight opened up a lot of different views, because now we know approximately what this all would cost. And also get kind of quiet in the community that we don't raise the assessment. And I think there was a big burden on everybody, including myself. I don't want to do that if we have to raise the assessment. But now, not everybody knows that now, but I hope you guys take the pamphlet along and give it to your neighbor. Or if anybody sees somebody and talk to you about $4,000 assessment or $8,000, you can tell them no, it's nothing. So this is a good place to be right now. So the changes we were talking about, or the two gentlemen talked about that we can save some money, I think the board has to discuss that internally to say which direction we want to go, what can we do later, what can we save here. So I think the whole project should be a positive thing. Because if we think positive about it, it will happen. And I think down the future, I believe with all my heart on that. Down the road, we'd be happy to do that, because that will work great for the outside people that will come in here and for us, for ourselves. So thank you.
I agree with the whole lot you so eloquently spoke of. I'd like to give my kind of first overview from my standpoint, and I've gone back and forth on this thing so many times on what we should do, what we shouldn't do, what we can afford. I mean, this is only part of my stack of stuff we've been reviewing. It doesn't include a lot of the comments and the various iterations of the designs and so forth. But to me, we're looking at the same total floor space on the two facilities, regardless of which way we go. We make one smaller, we make one bigger. We're still looking at the same basic floor space. Now, it's how we utilize it, that's up for us to decide. But we'll have the same basic floor space. So we're not losing anything. We're gaining some functionality, utilitarian purposes, and so forth. We're eliminating tremendous waste by consolidating the projects. And for me, the new rec facility that just came up in the last few days, the complete demolition of our, I mean, it's been around forever and people fall in love with it, but I think the love affair is probably over. To me, I think the rec center type approach makes perfect sense. You still have your meeting rooms, you still have the functionality, you still have the pool. It becomes a rec center. Later on, you can throw in basketball courts, bocce courts, something like that. But to me, at this point in time, not only the cost of $3.5 or whatever million, to just basically have the same thing we've got now, only new and improved. But the other concept makes more sense to me in general. I really appreciate the scaled down version of the Hartman facility. It was a little grandiose to begin with. I think we've scaled it down, taken the proper steps to get down into the range that we can afford based on the financial data. That's still got to be changing a little bit. But we will certainly benefit from that. And a lot of the meeting rooms or the larger groups or whatever that we're maybe using this room, which you can't see around the poles and so forth, can get an open room in the Hartman facility. So and the phasing process seems to me to make no sense. We're paying double duty for delivering equipment, mobilizing the troops, doing stuff like that. Coming back in, you do so much, but you have to do enough here to maintain the lower level and still put in some improvements for the upper level, or you've wasted your time, you have to come back in and start all over. Doesn't make sense. So, I don't know, we still have some design work, obviously, but we're trying to give the folks here some additional input so they can really refine their stuff. We can get final cost numbers, or we can actually make some significant decisions and move on with the process. So, to me, it's become clear over the process. I mean, this is a long, arduous process. We appreciate all of the inputs from the forums and so forth, but I think we're getting closer to making some kind of a sensible decision that will help us all out, improve our property values, make it a little nicer spot to entertain friends, acquaintances, and also attract new property owners. So that's it for me. Who'd like to go next? Rick?
There. Okay, now we can do it. My good friend and neighbor, I think he's been married for 4 years now. I'm I'm looking forward to your new kitchen. I guess the most important thing to me on this right now is, Bill Chapman, thank you very much. The board now has some numbers that we can look at. We can now talk intelligently. We can now think intelligently, because we got something to work with. You know, we've been talking about this for years and years, and, you know, not sure where we're going, what we need, or anything like that. That problem is now solved. Now we're down to the fine-tuning stages of it. We've got some numbers, we've got some options. You know, gee, do we want to spend $3 million to rehab this, or $2 million to replace it? You know, that has to be looked at. The value of an heirloom, that has to be looked at, but it's all got to be weighed in. The phases, I think it's a wonderful idea. Our money comes in phases, so if we could phase it out, you know, that works to our benefit. You know, your benefit, or I guess my benefit too, because I pay assessments just like you do. So we've gotten a lot of great information on this. And we have to evaluate, you know, what's important now, what's important later. You know, one of the things that came to my mind is, you know, they talked about pushing out the changes to the tennis courts. And I got to kind of look at that, and, you know, the first thing that came to my mind is, we're spending all this money for what a lot of people consider to be the golfers. I sure the heck don't mind spending a few $100,000 for the tennis players. They deserve some of this giving too. Only one tennis player in here?
I'm representing about a dozen of them.
But these are the things that we as a board have to go through. Now that we have the numbers, is what's important now, what can be taken care of later, how do we do it? We now have something to work with, and we can start moving forward. So going to be a lot more discussions about this stuff, so pay attention, keep your ears open, and you're going to be learning as much as we are as we go along. Thank you very much, and we as a board very much appreciate your patience and your input.
You don't need a mic.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. I also want to thank the staff for all the hard work they've done on this project. They put a lot of hours into this. You know, when I realized we had this meeting tonight, I kind of wondered why. Why did we have a meeting tonight? Based on an email that I read a couple days ago, the board's already decided to spend $10 million.
That's right.
I guess, I don't know why we're having the meeting if we've already decided that. It just shows that the information circulating is not totally true. There is a lot of information that is not out there. I don't like the way, as a board member, I've been attacked and I've been represented. My opinions have been on email that I'm thinking certain things or the board is doing certain things, and that's not the case. That is not the case. We are here, we are listening, we are studying, and we are trying to make decisions. No decisions have been made. No backroom deals have been done. No illegal meetings have occurred. So anyone who has those thoughts can get them out of your head right now. I like the scaled down version. I have one concern. One main concern, I think somewhere in this facility, somewhere in Hidden Valley, we need to have somewhere where we can have a banquet with 100 to 150 people. Someone wants to have a lecture session, someone wants to have a large family gathering, someone wants to have some kind of event between over 100 people. This isn't going to do it. Either one of these isn't going to do it, and I'd like to see how we can do it. If we lose all the banquets that we can have, if we have the facility, we will have the banquets. If we don't have the facility, we're not going to have any. This is barely big enough to cover some of the clubs here, whether they're golf clubs or the ladies luncheon club or the garden club, or other clubs here, 64 people, 64 places is not going to cut that even for groups within Hidden Valley. So we need to make a decision whether we're going to have a banquet facility for 100 people here, or spend the money and have a banquet facility down there, which seems to be the basic idea of the Commons Committee and other folks, is to have the banquet facility where the kitchen is, instead of spending all the money up here and go back and forth. So we've downsized to save money, but in downsizing, I think we've lost one of the things that we really need to have, and that's a room. In the new facility, there's no place to have this meeting. There's no place to have this meeting, and I think we need somewhere where we can have larger groups gather. And if it means we're going to have to figure out how to finance it, so be it. If it means phasing in other things so we can have that, in my opinion, that is my opinion, then we need to do that. But I think we're on the right track. I like what I see, and I think it's going to benefit the community as a whole once it gets done. The rec building here versus tearing this down and a new rec building, I saw that for the first time yesterday. That's when I saw it for the first time, that idea. I haven't even really had a chance to kind of get my mind around it. But I think if we can get past the sentimentality and get past some of the other things about this building, and I think there's actually enough young people, new members, where it's not going to be as hard to make that decision if that's what we decide to do, to tear it down and start over and do it right. Thank you.
Yeah, Mike Rankin. I'd like to add my thanks to everyone who came tonight. First of all, to the staff for the effort that they have put into getting this material ready. I wish we had had a little more time to absorb it, but there's a lot going on at the same time. A lot else going on for the staff while this is going on. And this is one of two opportunities for open discussion among the board of this very, very major issue before the end of the first phase of this contract. I have a slightly different take on this, on where we are, because first of all, this is the first phase of this consulting contract, in which has the intent to define directions for the second and the third phase, and defining those directions is really the key to the whole project. We need to define directions that the entire community does buy into and does support and sees as beneficial for the long term of the association. I happen to think that the key decision that we are making here is the size. As we've seen just by comparing the numbers for the Hartman facility and any facility on this site, that the major emphasis in these plans is to an expanded Hartman facility, and this clearly means an expanded food and beverage operation. And I see that as the fundamental decision underlying what choices we make. And I am very concerned about the viability of that idea, because the food and beverage operation is currently losing $10,000 a month. This year it's so hard to see the business plans that were put out for food and beverage in 2011, the four options that Bill Chapman has talked about repeatedly with us all, show larger losses for larger scales of food and beverage. And I think we really need to think very seriously about whether this is a direction that the community wants to go and whether we want to invest in this. Anyways, tonight and August 17th, the forum on Saturday, August 17th, are the two open forum opportunities to thrash all this out. And I hope that we are able to do it. But I need to get that perspective on what's going on out on the table. Thank you.
Thank you all for showing up. I'm Bill Wade, and I think most everybody has given a lot of diverse comments up here to show that, one, according to certain publications that have been out there, kind of reflects the fact that there is no conspiracy going in the board. We have too many different interests up here to not go that way. But in my general comments at this point are this: these buildings are old, they've been around for a long time. We're obligated under Davis Sterling as a board of directors to see to it that all the assets of the association are kept up and in great order to save on the property values. And part of that has to do with the fact the life expectancy of these buildings is over 30 years. It's what, 50 years or 40 years, and they should be replaced, or should be looked at to be replaced and everything within that period of time. And that's one of the things that the board is doing, which is one of the reasons why we're up here doing it. We're obligated to do this by Davis Sterling. And we think for the best interest of the community. The buildings are in dire need of major repairs. They look great, the facade is out. In fact, the Commons Committee did a fabulous job redecorating and everything in here and the rest of this building here to make it look good. The cosmetics have a tendency to change when you go to sleep at night, for example. So over a period of time, they only last so long. You put cosmetics on an old building, and in the end, it's still an old building. One of the things I like about the plan that's put forward here is it really creates a much, much better first impression when you're coming down Hartman Road and you're driving into Hidden Valley. The plans that these gentlemen over here have put up there really give a nice first impression of Hidden Valley, and it shows that we are in fact on top of our association and we're looking out for the best interests of our members. I've received many, many comments over the last few months, both pros and cons relative to the project, but the bulk of the project has been this: with these plans in place and everything, with the new look that we'll be presenting out there to the community, we'll have no trouble whatsoever keeping the membership happy. And I look forward to that. I also look forward to the fact that hopefully by redesigning all this and the fact that you're coming out to be involved in this, that more and more people will be coming out to participate in the facilities for the association. That we like to see as well. So I just want to say thank you, staff, for all your hard work. Thank you, everybody, for showing up and participating in our decision process, and also to take a look at the fact that we aren't just coming off the cuff with what we're doing. We are doing a lot of hard work out there, and we are trying to do this in the best interest of the association. Thank you.
Either respond to a couple of comments or ask for some other information from Terry. And the one thing is Mike's comments about food and beverage. I understand we have a horrible track record.
Yes.
Last month, well, in June, they actually did turn a profit in the month of June. And I think it's premature to talk about that and that to be the breaking point of a project until we have more information regarding the business plan and so forth that will be available on the 17th. On Bob's comment about the meeting rooms, I think we have the same amount of square footage overall into the projects, but I would like maybe Terry to readdress how much possible banquet meeting facilities we could have if those partition walls were moved and you worked off of the restaurant or even maybe the bar area and the decks and so forth. I heard a number over 120 or something like that. So, Terry, could you redo that, please?
Thanks, Craig. Let's see, if right now we are showing 64 seats in this location. If we add these 3 8-top tables here, or 4 8-top tables, we've added 32 to that. But if we just say, okay, let's just do this all indoors. If you include this whole space right here as one space that we could do with a partition right here, you're about 112 seats in this space right here. Now, the downside of that is when you have a banquet, it takes down your dining area. So those are people who want to come here for dinner. Whoever's taking this banquet space down takes away from that unless there's other areas to have dining. So that's the negative for this kind of scheme. Another option would be is if you wanted to maintain this all the time, only as dining, never expand into it, we can save the cost of this door here. And then we could go ahead and open up to the outside deck and use a covering over that to get 10 more tables, including these 4. Out here, we have to make the deck a little bigger. If we extend the roof line over, we can get up to 144 people in a banquet space. We have several tables.
Jerry, what about a meeting like this?
That's what I was just
And you can get, roughly it's about 7 square foot per person. So just in this space alone, we can get over 200 people sitting in the way we're sitting right now.
Is the hall between the kitchen and the eating area, the conference center required by the code? Because if you just eliminate that wall, you could put very easily a whole other set of tables.
Well, right now, we are using it as a required exit out this side. We can look at the idea of doing this, but then we just have to look at how we get in from the kitchen, how we service this banquet room. It's a good suggestion and something we probably look into to see if we can add more seating without adding things.
Okay, I'd like to remind you, we're going to take questions at the end, sorry. Any other comments? We're talking about this facility. I still like this scaled down version, and I hope maybe that meeting room size is going to soften what you're concerned, hopefully.
Well, I'm mainly concerned with weather like today when it's so hot you don't want to be outside, or in the winter when it's so cold you can't be outside. If that outdoor area is made to be all weather, in other words, it could be cooled or it could be heated or it could be used in the rain, because I don't like the idea of closing off the restaurant to the community members. But I also can't see, using outdoor facilities or counting on outdoor facilities unless they're climate controlled somehow. And would that be able to be done?
Yes, I think there's some things that you could do, and one of the things you gotta keep in mind is that you have to determine how often you're gonna have banquets up to 100. Because if you're not doing it often, or having wedding parties that are often, you're air conditioning the space that might be bigger than you. Let's say it was once a month. All those other days, you're conditioning this 100 seat banquet area. If you use it for small meetings, let's say 20 people, maybe you're using half that room for a small meeting. Again, you're conditioning the space for 64 for smaller meetings. So one option would be is to go ahead and add that partition back in here and use these as two separate spaces but open to one. As far as conditioning the outdoor space, you could add not just space heaters and misters, but you can also use panels that actually roll down between the columns and hold the roof up. to kind of contain that space so it's a little more temperate. Again, you're not conditioning that outdoor deck area year-round, and it might be the best option when you're trying to balance energy cost, how often you use it, and when you do need it, is it comfortable enough for an outside facility? And a lot of times what we'll do is we'll actually make this not double doors, but we use a wall system that opens up. So really, it makes this whole thing feel like one space. If some of you have been to Yocha Dady or Cache Creek Golf Clubhouse, we designed that clubhouse. We did the same thing there, where that deck was just an extension of the interior. With this kind of climate we have, of course, this is unusual right now. But I don't know how often you're going to have banquets here. That's a question you're going to have to ask. If it's once a month, then definitely you might want to consider something larger. Or once a week, I mean. Yeah, if we design the roof line correctly, we can add on towards this direction and move the event deck also to the south and just keep the roof line. So we're just adding on. It's not complicated structure. That is not an option. We had that option on the previous scheme as an additive if the need be. You can add to the banquet facility in phase one. It's possible.
Thanks, Terry.
Would it be very expensive to add another, would it be very expensive to make that outside deck deeper so you could have 2 rows of tables there and have them covered?
Yeah, I definitely would suggest that. We have to look at the trees that are here, but we can move this whole building, everything to the east a little bit to double the width of this deck so you can get another row here. That makes a lot of sense. In fact, I'd like to see 2 rows of 5 tables versus 2 rows of 4.
Okay, if you look, trying to flash back into some of the information we've seen before, does anybody on the board have any real comments or questions about things that have been excluded? And Rick alluded to the fact that the tennis courts he thought should be back in. I don't know what we have. We have no usage factors. As far as I know, they're only really, really busy is when they have the tennis team. I see people out there Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but not a lot of other times. I know they have lessons periodically. And I don't know if there's any real time frame or big waiting period to play tennis. I don't see it that often. It seems like it's more vacant than used. That's just, depending on the time you go and so forth. But regarding other things, like I personally would like to see the comfort station included because I don't think we want a whole bunch of golfers coming off the front nine, traipsing up through the deck into the restaurant to get their snacks or going into the bar to get their snacks. To me, it's a one-stop shop there because you make the turn, you make a pit stop, you get yourself a cold beverage, you get a cold sandwich or a hot dog, nothing exotic, no big kitchen, just to heat them up, cool them down type of thing. And to me, that's important to keep the traffic flow out of our real facility, which will be a lot nicer. We'll keep the golfers back out near the course.
The comfort station, I noticed in the cost analysis here, is $160,000. That's quite a comfort. I'm trying to figure out how we're spending $160,000 worth of comfort here for a snack station and a couple of bathrooms.
One question I have about both of these plans, both the original one and the scaled down plan, is the question of whether cost estimates include the wash station for golf carts and the fueling capability that has been requested from the golfing operation. I haven't heard any mention of that. I was really wondering about that in connection with the underground facility that if that goes away, but still, I wonder whether those costs are included and whether that is planned.
Yes, in both the underground version and the above grade alternate location, we have planned for
wash service of the carts and have included electrical charging for the carts. So there won't be any fossil fuel involved.
What about gasoline?
Just electric carts.
What about the owner's cart? What about the owners of internal combustion cars?
We'll need to address that. We haven't gotten any information on how many private carts or gas or electric powered. So good question.
But isn't the location of the new proposed above-ground building close enough to the other maintenance yard where they can also use that workstation if required?
The existing cart barn?
Yeah, the new one, when you put it out front. It's closer to the existing maintenance yard, which all has a complete wash station and depopulator and all this other fancy stuff we put in about 8 or 10 years ago for the water treatment.
I wasn't aware of that, so that's a good point. It's more, the location we proposed or looked at initially was by the creek, so that location has some other benefits we weren't aware of.
I noticed one of the options too is to do away with the 6,000 square foot cart storage under the building and set it out like you were talking about. But if I remember correctly, part of that 6,000 square foot was also used for equipment storage for the restaurant and food storage and stuff like that. If you do away with that underground cart area and storage, then where would that go? I didn't notice that in the revised plan.
There were three elements that were also underground with the carts, and that was beer keg storage for the bar. We think we can pull some of the area that's been dedicated to the IT security room and incorporate it there. So it would be accessed really through the bar storage location into also a beer keg storage. So we think we can get that out of the existing square footage. The other elements were seasonal storage, and we think maybe that's something that could also happen out with the cart barn, so it's in a less expensive square footage building. And third was club repair and re-gripping. And Wayne is thinking that we may be able to expand the size of the merchandise storage room to accommodate those functions in there, so it will become part of the pro shop area requirements.
That's good, thank you.
Okay, thanks, we've got a lot of good input. I think our comfort station is really good, although it would be somebody who had to stay there and be manned at all times, because you wouldn't know when a golfer or a tennis person was coming by. That's the one drawback I kind of see from that. And if not, in the plans of the building, there is no counter that someone can just walk up to, order a hot dog or 3 hamburgers to go. So that would have to be a consideration. We wouldn't want them to be sitting at a table and ordering a hot dog to go. It's really a grab and go situation, and you want them in and out as quickly as possible. But I really would like you guys to consider removing that meeting room and utilizing the space, and consider the fact of putting that bathroom between the bar and the restaurant. I think that's a lot of families really, really would appreciate having their children or grandchildren not be by the bar.
Let me present another option that's not evident in our plan. We kind of had a discussion earlier today about it. Another option for golfers. This is the 9th green here. And the cart path comes through this location. Another option would be, we've done this before, where you could create a paved area right here off this stair, this deck, and be able to walk across this deck, and there'd be an outside window in that barn where the bartender could give a golfer some food that he has right at his disposal. It's not, we have to work with Wayne to see if this would work for his food and beverage operation, but It's a suggestion and some of the things we've done in the past. So what it does do is it means that we can satisfy the golfer at the turn, but whether you still need to do this facility and how it's staffed, maybe it's only a bathroom for the golfers, and for the people who play tennis, for the events you have, and you don't have to staff the bathroom, and you can accommodate, you have to hire another person, and you can accommodate the golfers by letting them park their cars here and walk across the deck and then go on to the tent. It's another idea.
Thank you, Terry. Could you please get the modified slide on there
For the Hartman?
for the Hartman project, please? There you go, thank you. What I'd like to ask is if you expand more tables on the open side, or called the south side, I think. You said you can put a row of five tables add on the outside to make it a 120 person deal. How much would that cost to leave it the way it was on the original building? What would be the difference to build it now? And what is the cost of putting 5 tables on the outside or another 5 tables on the outside to expand the deck and close it up for bigger meetings? So what is the difference of cost, or leave it the way the original was?
That's a tough question.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I think what I heard is, what's the difference in cost between this plan with an expanded outside deck with 2 rows of 5,
Right.
which gets us to 144, versus a fully enclosed banquet facility that houses the same number of seats,
Yeah,
correct?
correct. And it was the original where we had the 2 rooms?
Yeah, I got the plan, I could bring a plan. And actually, Greg, we did some more work on this, but actually we tightened this plan up on a version that you're not seeing between this one and the last one, because there's some inefficiencies right here, and some inefficiencies right here. So I think, Greg, you remember what we ended up with size-wise? But I know that there should be enough. We got, what, 12 tables there. I think we can lose some square footage. We can do what we show here. This is a conditioned space. When you have a deck, you have a roof, so we're not adding any more roof to do this, because you got a roof over the deck. You have the extra conditioned space, which I'm not thinking that's a big added cost, and the deck versus the slab on grade, it's probably a wash when you compare an outside deck and a slab on grade now. So, you know, it might make better economic sense to commit to this thing and then let us tighten this plan up a little bit better so you can get, I mean, what's your desire? Would you like to get the full 144 indoors in this space alone, not bothering?
That's right, because no matter how we slice it, the restaurant has to stay open. You know, we cannot close it up because we have a wedding or a banquet. So my direction is, like Bob mentioned before, if we do have a feasibility to leave it the way it is, to make sure that we can, 100 to 120 people for a banquet, that would be then no problem. So if this is a wash for outside, or leave it the way, so.
I think we probably can't answer that question until the 17th, but if we were given the direction that we need to have indoor conditioned banquet facilities for 144, we could come up with a couple options. And one is to have it entirely enclosed, which is the most expensive option, and there's other ramifications. Or we could do a semi-enclosed and have an outdoor component to it that use things that are more temporary, like a canvas enclosure or a window enclosure, so that we're not conditioning that extra space all the time. Once we enclose it, we're going to start having to do extra parking. So that cost of the parking lot goes up as we enclose it. I think it was one, I don't recall the parking count, but it's based on your banquet and assembly areas on your stalls. So you're paying different prices for that. But we'll get you the answer by the 17th.
Okay, thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Could you also use the lounge area? Use the whole space on the south? The whole, use the lounge area there to do meals?
What we're a little bit worried about, some of the feedback, is if we start to encroach in food service, the cafe and the lounge, it affects those operations by having the banquet take those capabilities.
Thanks. The one thing I really like about the downsized or the new version that you have on the floor plan for the Hartman facility, and I agree with Bill that I think some kind of comfort station, it doesn't have to, $160,000, I agree with. What sounds like a lot when the house next door to me just sold for about half that. And that had all other stuff besides just a comfort station. But the thing that I really like about this, and I think is really going to benefit the community as a whole, and anybody who has not been to a Friday night concert down there is really missing something, is that this event stage or event deck faced out onto a grassy area with the barbecue area and all that there is going to be a really, really nice addition to our Friday night concerts. And having the comfort station there, it's either going to be a comfort station or it's going to be porta potties around the new building, which I don't think is the nicest look. But some kind of comfort station, maybe granite instead of marble, and or tile instead of gold fixtures or something. I don't know, but anything to get it under $160,000, which I really think is high. Thank you.
Anybody else? I'd like to, maybe we can take a break for 10 minutes or so. Everybody get up and and also maybe we'll have the lights up by then. And we can kind of wrap up the board discussion. I don't know if these gentlemen have received any real direction. So maybe you can ask some specific questions and we can kind of make a mini poll on what they say. And maybe try to give us some direction. Right now it's pretty wide open.